everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies Podcast. We are really excited today. We have another one of our little test shows, recaps that we're going to try to do. Heartland fans are going to be very excited because we were talking about the pilot of Heartland, and we'll see what we're going to cover in the future. But we're going to talk about the pilot today, and I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Amy's here.
Hey, guys.
Yes, and Michelle Benson is here.
Hi, guys.
Yes, so this is exciting, and I should state out front, I am not sure what we're going to want to do as far as Heartland is concerned. We had the interview with Amber Marshall that did extremely well for us, and so I'm definitely interested in in talking about the show. It's just hard when there's so many seasons to figure out how best to cover it. But
and this is our second attempt at covering it because me and Amber tried to cover it in January too. So number 2, round 2.
Yeah. It's challenging. And so Michelle, have you been a fan for long? What's your experience with Heartland?
I'm a big fan of family dramas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to find a good one for me. Like when Parenthood ended, I was kind of on the hunt for a good multi-generational family drama. I could never take to This Is Us and things like that had like a kind of manipulative kind of hook. So I wanted something a bit more straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
And a few of my friends from England were posting about Heartland, and I just saw like pictures of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I'll check it out. And I only got about as far as season 3, and that's not because I don't like it or I didn't enjoy it. It was more just I watch a lot of TV, and other things.
Still working through it.
Still working through it, but I really, really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. What about you, Amy?
I started watching Heartland last May, I think May of 2019, and pretty much like every summer I pick a show to binge, and that was the show I picked last summer. And I watched all of it, I think, by September of last year. And then season 13 came out in America in like November on Up streaming service. So I have watched all of it. I love it so much. And this is an opportunity for me to get to rewatch it. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, there's actually a number of ways to watch it. It's on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
It's also
11 seasons are on Netflix.
Yeah. And it's also on the Hallmark Movies Now, if you are a subscriber to that. And then, like you said, on the Up.
Yeah. If you want to watch season 12 and 13, the only place they're available in America is on the Up streaming network or streaming service, Up Faith and Family.
The most recent. Yeah. So we can put links to all of that in the description. I had never heard of it until we started doing the podcast, and then you hear about it with people like Kevin McGarry and Cindy Busby that we've had on that have talked about their time on Heartland. And I like you, Michelle, I do like family dramas when they're done well. I'm obviously more of a movie person, and it can be a little bit daunting when you have these shows that have been on for so long, because it's just kind of like I had the same sort of hesitancies about diving into Doctor Who because
that's a commitment.
Because it had been on. I still have like 6 seasons to watch because I just started in season 10 and. Because my friend really wanted to cover it, but before that, I'd been hesitant to just start because it's just so overwhelming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
and I think the most daunting thing about this one is I'm pretty sure it's the longest running Canadian television show at this point. So
there's 13 seasons on UK Netflix. I don't know if that's the same for the rest of Europe, but especially UK definitely has like 13 full seasons.
Oh, good. Okay.
I know the Canadian Netflix also has all the seasons too. So
that's good.
But
Oh, that's good.
Us in America, they don't want us to see season 12 and 13.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, the next season hasn't been, I don't think, officially greenlit yet. So
yeah, and they haven't scheduled filming or anything. So
yeah, so that it's gonna be interesting. We definitely want your feedback because there's lots of different ways we could. I mean, because if we're just gonna do a individual episode recaps, I mean, we're gonna be podcasting about Heartland for a long time. Get ready, make your commitment, because that's going to be a long time that we're going to be doing.
I mean, there's 214 episodes.
Yeah, exactly. But we could group them into small, like we could do what we did for Sweet Magnolias, where we did, or High School Musical, the musical series, where we divided the season into 2 parts. We could do that. We could just cover like 13 weeks, cover each of the seasons, but that's hard because that's a lot of TV to watch.
Yeah, that's a lot of content.
But anyway,
the show packs a lot in one season. I don't know if we'd be able to do that.
Yeah, so that's the challenge. We'd love your feedback to try to figure it out of what to do. But anyway, it's going to be fun just talking about the pilot. What do you, Michelle, what do you think? You've watched a lot of television. How do you think this pilot shakes out as far as TV pilots?
Well, this is only the second time I'd watched it. As a pilot, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Because, do you know what I mean? It's got so many characters. It's got a whole kind of a world that people like me just aren't familiar with whatsoever. So it's got to kind of situate us all in Heartland. It's got to introduce all of these characters. And they've done a great job, especially even with characters like Scott, Val. All these characters are kind of on the periphery. That pilot kind of packs all of these characters in 45 minutes. It's crazy. And I misremembered a lot of it. I actually thought the accident was like flashback, and then we go to like months later. But that, do you know what I mean? In 10 minutes, so much happens. Yeah. I completely misremembered all of it.
Yeah. What do you think, Amy? Do you think it's a strong pilot?
Yeah, I really do think so. It's like, it's a lot. Like, I agree with Michelle. It's a lot all in 45 minutes, but I feel like they did it really well, and I feel like they did a good job in introducing each one of the characters in a way that makes me want to know more. I want to know how these people connect more, and that's what dragged me in. Yeah,
I think it was really strong too. I mean, I felt like the car crash was sufficiently shocking, and they did a good job sort of balancing all these different characters and getting you to meet this family and making it feel like a family. So yeah, I, as someone who has never seen anything in the show before, I thought it was a very good start to our characters. And so we start out with Amy and her mom, and they are trying to save this horse that's been beaten by a neighbor farmer and Farmer Mellon, Mellen, and they're trying to rescue it. And her mom tells her that when all else fails, bribe them with candy, the horses. And they did a good job making the horse throughout the episode, making the horse seem pretty scary.
Yeah.
And
I think they definitely have some really good horse wranglers on this show that know what they're doing,
because they obviously can't actually like injure the horse. So making it seem abused and scary, that's
the way they use the camera and the lights was really, really awesome, I think, to make that look even scarier.
Yeah, I mean, and this is something I know nothing about, is horses. This whole world is I am so not familiar with.
Should we introduce our horse history?
Horse history. Yeah, what about I have been on a horse exactly one time in my life, and that was we went to this dude ranch for family reunion, and it was not for me, this dude ranch. And I was like, I'll be a sport and I'll go on the horses. And I thought it was going to be just like going around the little track, or whatever. And no, we were like going up and down and through the creek and all this stuff. And I was terrified. And my little brother, who's 16 years younger than me, was on the horse ahead of me. And so I was just like, I can't wimp out on this. My little brother. But I was really scared. I'm not a big unfamiliar animal person, so I was not for me. Probably the wrong person to be. I was Heartland horse show, but yeah. Michelle, what about you? Have you ever been horseback riding?
No, the closest I've come to a horse is when I walk past them on a dog walk. That's about it. It. We've got a farm actually nearby us, and they walk them in the area, just to give them a bit more. I think it's more of a tradition now. They kind of walk them through the town, like maybe a couple of times a summer. But that's the closest I've ever come to them, unless riding a pony when I was a child counts, which I don't think it does.
What about you, Amy? Have you ever
Yeah,
been?
I was going to say, unless riding a pony when I was a kid counts, but like I did that a lot as a kid. But other than that, I've only rode a horse once, and I think I was 8.
Well, I'm just the most experienced of this whole group then. Hopefully, if we decide to keep doing this, we can have co-host Jess on, and
the one who rides horses.
She actually rides horses all the time. And she couldn't because of work things that she has going on this weekend. But hopefully then we might actually have some legitimacy talking about all this stuff.
I mean, I'm not against horses. I just, like, how do you ride a horse? Like, do I Google it? Like, do I find a farm? I don't know how that happens.
You just hold on for dear life. That's my recommendation. But yeah, in fact, one time I was out for a little jog, and there, all of a sudden I see on the road, I'm like, there's a horse on the middle of the road, and then so I don't know what to do, and there was a couple block or so later, there was the farmer looking for his horse. I guess got out. I'm like, you're about a block ahead of you.
On my way home from Utah, actually, when I was driving down the 70 recently, a cop was walking a horse down the 70.
Oh my gosh!
I think it got out.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny because you just see the police officer walking down the side of a highway in the middle of nowhere with a horse.
You're like, is this a mirage? Am I seeing things?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh! So
it's pretty funny.
Yeah, they did a really good job of making the horse feel, like I said, feel scary, feel wild, and it was interesting too. Last year, there were a bunch of horse movies. It was like a thing. Mm-hmm. There's some really good movies. I highly recommend a movie called Lean on Pete. It's a movie that I loved. And then there's another good one called The Rider that good. I also recommend. Have you seen that, Michelle?
Yeah, so good. Yeah, I think
excellent, right?
Yeah, so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there's another really good one called The Mustang. So there were like 3 kind of indie horse movies last year. And they're all really good. So see them. And they're all R-rated, but still really good. See them. Anyway, so they call, they tell him, call the cops, she'll be saving me the trouble. And so they rescue the horse, and he says that it feeds them enough to keep them standing until the meat truck comes. So
yeah, it's so horrible.
I don't understand. I guess it seems like, wouldn't it be sort of hurting your own farm to not treat the horse well? Like, don't you want it? Like, what's the advantage? Like, why is somebody motivated to do this?
Money? I don't know.
I think it's just really expensive to keep horses as well, isn't it? I mean, it's such an expensive business. Not that I'm an expert, but I assume that's part of it.
Yeah. And so
just a horrible human being.
So the horse is really upset, and there's some bad weather coming home, and they end up getting in a horrible car crash. And I thought it was very well done. I mean, it felt pretty visceral, pretty real. Yeah, and we see the car crash, and then next thing we know it, Amy's in the hospital. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was pretty effectively done. Do you agree, Michelle?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what Amy said about the lighting as well, I think that's kind of a way they got around not having like a huge budget. They used the lighting is really kind of effective, and really got because you could honestly just looked as if it was thunder. I mean, it really looked scary. It looked authentic to me.
Yeah. And so this is where we also see the funeral, which Amy was in the hospital. And this is where we get to meet Lou, her sister, played by Michelle Morgan. And she says she lived an amazing life, and she died doing what she loved. And she says, I just wish she didn't have to die so soon. What do you think about Lou as a character? She's been in New York City, now she's coming back, kind of a classic dynamic that we've seen a lot. But what do you think, Amy?
Well, yeah, this is like a classic Hallmark trope type thing. The girl who got away from the farm life lives in the city. She has to come home because something tragic happens at home. And but I really love Lou's character, though. She's one of my favorites. And I do think when they introduced her, because she was walking through New York with her boyfriend, and the phone call, the look on her face was just like, okay, something really bad happened, and then it transitions to the hospital. So I think that was a really good scene, and a really good way of like introducing her and her character, because you could kind of understand, okay, she's somehow related to this family, but she's in like the city, and so it was really good.
Yeah, what do you think of Lou in this pilot, Michelle?
Yeah, I really liked Lou. Like Amy said, it's the classic Hallmark thing, isn't it? But there's definitely a lot of story to mine there, as far as ripping someone out of their life that they've got really comfortable in, and it's not that they don't like the place that they came from, it's just not their world anymore. So I think there's a lot of story to mine there, as far as they're getting back into Heartland life.
Yeah. So when we also get to meet Jack, played by Sean Johnston, I felt like he was very Sam Elliott. Like, it could have been Sam Elliott. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And he's your tough grandpa, a horse, farmer, rancher, that kind of a feel. And he's been in as many episodes as Amy, as Amber. So he's one of our co-leads, basically.
Yeah. Grandpa Jack's always there in every episode.
Yeah. So he was good, and now he has to all of a sudden, he's gonna have to be raising a teenager all of a sudden.
Yeah.
because we get to meet later on, we meet their father, the girl's father, played by Chris Potter. But he hasn't really been all that involved in their lives, it sounds like.
Yeah. He left when Amy was 5. And I think that would have made Lou like 14 or something like that when he left. So.
Oh, is there that big of a difference between Lou and
yeah, I think it's almost 10 years. Yeah, I think it's almost 10 years. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. What do you think about Jack, Michelle?
Yeah, Jack's he's the classic grandpa, isn't he? He's so convincing as the kind of the stereotype that it's a stereotype, but it works. I mean, it's not off-putting or put on. It feels like who that guy is.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like that actor is that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And they have the horse there, and he's determined that they're going to find a way to train the horse and save the horse, because he says he doesn't want his granddaughter thinking that she died for nothing. So they're trying to save the horse. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess it's a tricky thing because at that point, they're probably domesticated enough that you can't just like release. It's not like a wild horse in that sense, but like it's so damaged that what do you do? It would be hard. Yes, and so we find out that I guess their mother was not very good about the bills. The bank's been calling; they're behind, and so it's a big problem. The rescue just hasn't paid. Been profitable, evidently. When we meet a bunch of characters that I think end up being bigger characters coming forward, but we just kind of briefly meet them in this pilot. Like we meet Mallory. Briefly. She's there and she, kind of wants to help, and she's there at the house. We also meet Scott as a veterinarian, who I think is going to be a love interest for Lou.
He previously, they mentioned it kind of quickly, but he previously lived above their barn. So there's history.
Yeah. And then we meet Ty, who is played by Graham Wardle, who becomes, he's in 211 episodes. So he's only 3 behind Jack and Amy. And Ty is introduced. The mother hired him to be a ranch hand, I guess. So Ty and Amy, they don't get along very well at the beginning. Yeah.
That changes.
Yes. You can tell.
Yeah.
And so Amy and Lou have a big disagreement because she's looking at this as a business, and because it has to be sustainable. And Amy says it's not a business, and she's feeling a lot of guilt because she was the one that told her mom to go to Melon's farm and save the horse. But yeah, what do you think about that dynamic, Michelle, between Amy and Lou?
It's not my favorite. I'll be honest, it's not my favorite. It's not pleasant to watch, but I think that's the intention. Yes, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I mean, Lou's got a point, as kind of blunt as she is. I mean, to keep the ranch, they need to turn a profit, and they aren't. And everything she's saying is the truth. But Amy has just been through such a huge trauma that they're all grieving, which is something that we need to keep in mind. But it's an interesting dynamic. Let's say it's not the most pleasant thing to watch, but they feel like sisters. That's the other thing. They do feel, despite such a large age gap, and the characters, they do feel like sisters.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about this, Amy?
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, it's not the most it's not my favorite part of watching this, but like you can tell they're sisters. You can tell Lou's been gone for a while, and you know they have different ways of looking at things. And
yeah. I mean, I definitely could relate to as somebody who has 3 sisters myself, and we have a pretty big age gap in my family. You know, this definitely can be challenging sometimes. You know, you come in and you have different perspectives, and like we haven't had to face this kind of situation, thank goodness. But you know, from Lou's perspective, it makes a lot of sense what she's doing. She's trying to save the ranch. She's trying to help in the way that she knows how. From Amy's perspective, you're coming in and you're trying to take over, and so I think their perspectives make sense. And it's always nice when you have conflict that feels authentic to the characters in a show. And I think that that's what you have here. And, you know, so Lou goes to the bank. She meets Steve, who's at the bank, and they have kind of a back and forth. And he also seems like a potential love interest, maybe.
I don't think we ever see him again.
Oh, really? Okay, maybe not.
I don't know.
Like a little banter.
Yeah, I don't remember him.
I don't remember him.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
But like, Lou grew up in this town, so a lot of the people she runs into, she went to high school with and stuff. So
yeah. Okay, interesting. And they go back and forth, and you know, she says, "You say financial crisis, I say cash flow problem," and so she's pretty good at selling the ranch and spinning things.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and we also get from Jack, he says, "That's the beauty with farm work. You're never done."
Yep.
The beauty or trial.
I know.
There was a documentary, is it the best little farm or something like that last year, about these hipsters from LA that think that they're going to go start this organic farm. It's like their dream. Oh my gosh. I mean, not that I would ever think that farming is for me, but you watch this thing and I'm like, wow. I mean, just one thing after another, one nightmare after another. But of course, that's like, they're doing like farming, not like ranching farming. But man, it's a tough gig. It is. And he's right. It never stops. And I actually have a friend who is small farming in Ohio. It was her dream. She always wanted to do it, and I follow her Instagram, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, it's just so much work. I'm just like, I'll just enjoy having my milk from the store. Thank you very much. But anyway, yeah, and so that's they definitely get that feeling of kind of being on a farm. They get the small town feeling. I think well done, and then we also meet Val. Val's a neighboring farmer who is a contemporary with Jack. They seem to get along.
They hit it off a little bit.
Yeah, which I liked. I like that actress Wanda Cannon. I think I've seen her in some stuff. I
think she's played the mom in a couple Hallmark things.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, the way she played it, it was like she was kind of flirting, but she was also like super shady at the same time. And because it's the pilot, you're like, you have no idea what way that character's going to go.
Yeah, she was just in Christmas at the Plaza. And she's the mom in Christmas List, which is one I really like. I think that one's... Oh, she's been in tons. She was in Surprised by Love.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
she's in a
right,
lot,
with Paul
yeah.
Campbell. So yeah, she's been in a bunch. But anyway, she's good. I think that has potential. And the horse's name is named Spartan. That's what they. But I thought it was a good scene when, well done scene when Amy is trying to train Spartan, and she says it's not my fault. It's not my fault. And it kind of reminded me of in Good Will Hunting when there's a famous scene between Robin Williams and Matt Damon where he just says it's not your fault. Anyway. I thought
those
that was good.
Reminded me of The Horse Whisperer, the movie from the 90s. Like that whole like trying to kind of heal your grief and your trauma through the horse that was in the accident with you. That kind of similar storyline.
Yeah.
And those like those like Heartland join up scenes like this are kind of like big emotional parts of this series type of thing. So yeah, it was really good. I liked that scene a lot.
So Lou finds out that she has to stay in order for them to get the loan. And so, yeah, she's going to be moving back from New York, I think. So,
yeah.
And so then we see the scene where we'd seen where Amy goes back to school. And that's where we meet Jesse and Ashley. And that's Ashley is Cindy Busby, who we just barely had on the podcast. We got to interview her. So
last week.
That's kind of fun to see a young Cindy Busby.
And she's mean in this
She's
show.
So mean.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, jeez. Yeah, and Jesse is also, he's kind of the jock.
Amy's now ex-boyfriend, but yeah. And they don't do a good job of explaining it in this first episode, but like they're siblings.
Yeah, that took me a second.
Yeah.
Oh, Ashley and Jesse?
Yeah, and they're Val's kids. Like, it's not described well at all. Like, you don't find that out for a while, and it's weird.
Yeah, you really don't. I had no idea.
Yeah.
They were her kids.
Yeah, but like the thing is, I don't think we see Jesse again for like 6 seasons or something.
Yeah, I was just looking.
I didn't remember him. I thought I was going crazy. So I was like, and also Amy's friend. I was like, is that her friend from the entire season, or did they recast?
No, that's the friend that she's with for the next couple seasons is the one she was chatting with on the computer, Soraya. Okay. I don't think we ever see that friend again. Also, that she was with. I don't think we ever see that character again.
Okay.
Yeah, that was definitely a throwback. She's doing the instant messenger.
Oh my god! Can we talk about the tech?
The chatting,
like the phones, and when you get to the cell phone, I'm like, oh my god, look at that phone.
Yeah, that cell phone. I was like, oh my goodness. But this is what 2004 or something like that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and how do you say that? Soraya?
It's Soraya.
Soraya. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's her BFF, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely Cindy Busby is the mean girl of the high school for sure. And they're competitors with the horses. Is that right?
Yeah. So Amy is a jumper, and so is Ashley, and so they've competed in the past. So Ashley decides to take, a girl's first day back after her mother passed away to be like, I got a new jumper and I'm gonna beat you. I'm like, okay, calm down. Like, give her a day at least. Like, come on.
So she goes to a party with Jesse, and Ty shows up, and Ty and Jesse get in a fight over her, and he's defending her honor or whatever, and then she gets upset and she's like, he says, I thought that guy was hurting you and I lost it. And so he's upset. And yeah, I mean, that's a pretty classic dynamic. Like, I didn't want you to fight for me. I fought for you anyway, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think that in this pilot, at least, that Ty and Amy have chemistry?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You're feeling it. And Jack is upset with Ty for not finishing the hay job that he'd given him to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really making Ty earn that that bed, and that's the job. Earn his keep. I mean,
he's on probation. That's the reason he has this job.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're trying to, work it out of him, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So the last scene is between Lou and her dad that we see. And I guess he didn't come to the funeral, the dad, because there's bad blood between them all. But they have a scene where they're talking. And so that's our first introduction to Chris Potter in the series as Tim. And so that was basically everything of this pilot. But yeah, like you guys said earlier, I feel like you got to know a lot of different characters. The crash is sufficiently sort of traumatic to start things off, and they got some emotion and some lighter moments as well. So I think it was a pretty promising start to the show. And so yeah, do you have any parting last thoughts, Amy?
I want to say again, this episode, there was so much that made me want to know more the first time I watched it. I was like, what did Dad do? Like, why did he leave? Why this? Why that? Like, there's just so much. Not to mention, I feel like the chemistry between Ty and Amy, even though like they really don't like each other all that much at this point, I'm like, something's going to happen there. And I think they did that so well. And it was just, I think it was a very interesting pilot. And I love it.
You agree, Michelle?
Yeah, it's a great pilot. For me, the standout scenes were really Jack and the girls. Those were kind of that would be my hook for the show. I think that would be what I would keep going back for. Scott really stood out to me as well. As kind of this guy who was probably a former Thai, because he kind of mentioned that he would wouldn't know where he was without their mum, and Ty as well. The Ty and Amy dynamic is really super interesting. I mean, he's such a stereotypical like bad boy, like especially at that era. I mean, he's basically like Ryan from the OC, like right down to the choker. That pilot would definitely hook me.
Very good. All right. Well, let us know if you're listening what you think we should do as far as covering Heartland. What would most satisfy the listeners? That's what I'm very curious to know. So please share with us in the comments section or on Twitter or Instagram, wherever you are on social media. Please let us know what you want us to do and what you think would be the wisest. I would really appreciate it. And let us know what you think of this pilot. Like I said, there's a number of ways to watch it. And so let us know what you think and what parts stood out to you. Would be really grateful. And thank you so much to both Amy and Michelle for coming on doing this. Really appreciate it. And Michelle, where can people find you?
Twitter, Michelle R. Benson.
And Amy?
You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at It's Amy Craig.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So please check that out. And you can also find us at Hallmarkies Podcast, at Hallmarkies Podcast on social media. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. It really helps people to find the show. And then also, if you are listening on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to your channel. We really appreciate that so much. And then we have our merch store, which is a lot of fun, has a lot of Hallmark inspired merch. Check that out. And then we also have our patron group, which is another great way to give us feedback on what you like, what you want to see, all that stuff. We listen to our patrons number one. So all that information is in the description section. So thank you again, ladies. Really appreciate it. And who knows how we'll be talking about Heartland again, but I have a feeling we'll be talking about it all again. So thanks again, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.